Hey guys, welcome to Miss Haywood's Flipped Grade, Flipped Classroom. Today we're going to talk about immigration during the mid to late 1800s. Okay, so what exactly is immigration? Immigration is when other people from different countries come over and move permanently to another country. So a lot of people immigrated to our country, the United States. They left their country to come over to our country to live. And there's a lot of different reasons why, and we'll go into that later. Who immigrated to the United States? Who are these people that decided they wanted to come to live in the United States? Well, Germany, Ireland, and England were the main countries with immigrants coming to the United States during this time. So there were a lot of different people that came over. But Germany, Ireland, and England were the main people that came over to our country. And later we'll go into detail and figure out why those three countries were the main ones that came over and what caused them to come over. Other immigrants included those from France, Scotland, Austria, Hungary, Norway, Sweden, and China. And there weren't as many immigrants as those, but there was definitely a very wide variety of immigrants that came over. And like I said, different reasons for all of them, but they all came over and immigrated to the United States. Okay, so where did the immigrants enter the United States at? Not all the immigrants came and entered the United States in the same spot or center. The people from Europe came to the East Coast facilities because if you think about America, Europe is to the east of America. So they came to the East Coast facilities. Those from Asia, like Chinese, Japanese, they came on the West Coast facilities because Asia is to the west of America. The biggest city that the immigrants came to was New York City. In fact, there was 70% of all the immigrants that came over entered through New York City. It was called the Golden Door. Okay, and later, immigrants came through a center called Ellis Island. And this wasn't until 1892. But this is where most all the immigrants came and entered the United States at. So think about all these different immigrants coming to one location. Can you imagine it being so crowded? And a lot of the immigrants were unable to travel far and settle, so a lot of them had to settle right there in New York City. So now you can see why New York City is so populated, even to this day. It's just from all the different immigrants that have come over right there in New York City and settled there. Okay, so now we're going to look at why so many people came to the United States. Why did they leave their countries? What made them want to leave their countries? And this is the push factors. This is why people left, okay? So the first reason is crop failure. A lot of different countries during the mid-1800s were having crop failure. And this would lead to land and job shortages, and this would lead to rising taxes. So all this combined led people to want to leave their country, especially famines too, famines and crop failures. For example, the potato famine in 1845 was so devastating to the Irish people and also to some of the Germans. They were literally starving to death because they had no potatoes, and that was their main source of food, main source of income. They were losing their farms and houses, and so that made people want to leave their country to come to the United States where there was better opportunities. All right, so before we go on and look at the pull factors, I want you guys to stop the video for a second. I'm going to ask you a question, and this question is going to be, why do you think so many people wanted to come to the United States? What were the pull factors? Why was the United States better than the other countries? So I want you to think in your head and write down the answer of what you think. This is just what you think. It's a prediction. And we will come back to the answer after you pause the video. So pause the video right now and write down what you think. Okay, so now let's look at the pull factors, why so many people came over to the United States. Well, the biggest reason is just simply hope for a better life. America was known as the land of opportunity, specifically economic opportunities. This means a lot of different job opportunities, and the economy here was better. That means people were making more money and people weren't as poor. So that's what America was known as during this time. So people were drawn to that, and they saw job and economic opportunities to come here. Also, a political better life too. A lot of countries were under dictatorships or they didn't really have a say in the government, but here in America, like we talked about before, we have a democratic republic, so people have a say in their government. And so a lot of people were drawn to that. That made them want to come over, that pulled them over. So another reason is freedom, and this is religious and political. We just talked about political and how a lot of people wanted freedom to express their rights, freedom to have a say in the government. So that was one type of freedom. And then religious freedom, America was known for religious toleration. This means that everyone has a right to freely worship in America and have a religion of their own. In a lot of countries, it wasn't the case. Like in England, I think they were persecuted. Actually, no, it was Germany. A lot of Catholics were persecuted there, and so a lot of Catholics from Germany came over to America so they could have religious toleration, religious freedom. So another reason that people came over here, wanted to come over here, was just simply for adventure. They just thought traveling across the ocean in a boat so far away from their home, even though that was like a really hard step, they thought it would just be a new start for them, and they wanted to come for the adventure and just, like we said, hope for a better life. They just saw America as just a new start for them, and so they wanted to come over here for that. So an acronym to help you remember this is called HERE. The H would stand for hope for a better life. The E would stand for economic freedom, and this could also be political freedom as well. The A would be adventure, and the R would be religious freedom. So if you want to write that down, and it'll help you remember the pull factors, because you will need to know these for tomorrow. And tomorrow we're going to do a really fun activity that kind of ties the push and pull factors in and also expands it even more. Okay, so that's for tomorrow. So be prepared for this tomorrow and look back over this video, and if you have any questions, please bring them into class tomorrow. So thank you very much, and I will see you guys tomorrow.